Would you believe it if I told you that in the 1600s in Versailles, that's Louis XIV's time, that there was a royal scandal involving garden peas? Apparently, peas had become so fashionable, so coveted, so wildly trendy that noblewomen were sneaking off to eat them in bed at night. After sitting through royal banquets, they would just sneak off and eat more peas. The king's sister-in-law talked about this, the impatience of wanting to eat them, the pleasure of having eaten them, the anticipation of eating them again. These three things occupied the court all at once. Peas. We're talking about peas. Now, why am I telling you this? Because there is something about picking that first pea out in the garden and eating it right there. It's very flavorful and sweet, and there's nothing like it. I want to show you how to grow them so you can see what all those noble women were all worked up about. Hi, I'm Carol from Almost 2 Acres. Let's go.
Before I talk about growing, let's make sure we're all on the same page about what type of garden peas we're actually talking about, because they're not all the same. There are 3 kinds. Shelling peas are the ones where we eat the peas but not the pod. The pod itself is tough and papery, so you shell them. Pop the pod open and push the peas out, and eat only what's inside. They're the classic pea of pea soup, peas and carrots, frozen peas. Varieties like Lincoln, Wando, and Green Arrow are reliable in Zone 4. They tend to be taller vines and need sturdy support. The truth about shelling peas is that you need a lot of plants to get a meaningful harvest. A 4-foot row gives you maybe one good meal. If you want to shell and freeze peas for winter, you need a serious amount of growing space. Snap peas are the best of both worlds. The pod and the peas inside are both tender and edible. You just pick them and eat them whole, or slice them into salads, stir fries, or snack plates. Sugar snap is the original and still one of the best. It's tall, it climbs enthusiastically, and the flavor is very sweet and excellent. Super sugar snap is an improved version with better disease resistance. For shorter spaces, or if you'd rather skip a tall trellis, Sugar Ann is a compact snap pea that stays around 24 inches and still produces well. It's a great container option too. Snap peas are my recommendation for anyone who wants to maximize fresh eating enjoyment per square foot. The harvest to eating ratio is just better. No shelling, great flavor. Kids and adult gardeners, not even at the Paris court, eat them right off the vine. Snow peas are picked before the peas inside develop, so the whole flat pod is eaten. They're the classic stir-fry and Asian cooking pea. Oregon sugar pod and mammoth melting sugar are tried and true varieties. They tend to be productive, and because you're picking the pods young, the harvest window can be a bit more forgiving than shelling peas. Zone 4 gardeners sometimes seem to feel like the short season is always working against them. With peas, it's actually working for you. Peas are cool season crops. They grow best when daytime temperatures are in the 60s and nighttime temperatures are still dipping into the 40s. They slow down and stop producing when it consistently hits 80 degrees or above. In many parts of the country, that warm weather arrives fast and stays. In Zone 4, we sometimes have a nice long cool spring. If we plant them right, our peas get weeks of ideal growing conditions before the heat even thinks about arriving. The catch is that we also have a compressed timeline on the other end. Our springs can go from still frosty to suddenly hot pretty quickly in June. So the timing of when you get those seeds in the ground really matters. Early is always better than late with peas in Zone 4. Here's the guideline I want you to remember from this video. Plant your peas as soon as the soil can be worked in spring. In Zone 4, that's often late April, sometimes earlier if you've had a mild start to the season and the soil has thawed and drained. As soon as the soil can be worked means the soil isn't frozen, it's not waterlogged and sticky, you can dig it, it crumbles, and it doesn't clump into dense muddy balls when you squeeze it. That's workable soil. Pea seeds will germinate in soil as cool as 40 degrees. They're slow in very cold soil, but they're okay. They can handle frost after germination too. Established pea seedlings are surprisingly frost tolerant, down to the upper 20s in many cases. They might look a little rough after a hard freeze, but they typically bounce back. What peas cannot handle is heat. Every week you delay planting in spring is a week less of prime growing time before summer arrives. If you wait until mid-May to plant peas because of being nervous about frost, the plants only just start producing before the heat shuts them down. Get them in the ground in late April. Don't wait. Here's a helpful way to think about it. Peas go in around the same time you'd be sowing your first radishes and spinach. They're all part of that same early spring planting push. You might be tempted to start peas indoors for a head start, the way you would with tomatoes and peppers. Skip it. Peas really don't like having their roots disturbed, and moving a pea seedling from a tray to the garden sets it back rather than pushing it ahead. By the time you've hardened off your indoor started peas and gotten them into the ground, direct sown seeds in the same bed would already be up and growing. This is actually one of the things that makes them easy. No lights, no heat mats, no tray management, just seeds and soil. Please take a moment right now to subscribe. Also, please see my affiliate links in the description for items I've discussed in this video to make it easier to get those peas started. Most pea varieties, especially shelling peas and full-size snap peas, need something to climb. Pea plants grab onto supports with thin little tendrils, which are actually modified leaves. They reach out, wrap around anything they can find, and pull themselves up. It's kind of impressive to watch, just like a little kid getting up for the first time. If you don't provide a trellis, you end up with a tangled pile of vines on the ground, poor air circulation, disease problems, and a harvesting nightmare. Give them vertical support and everything works better. The easiest and most common option is simple netting or string trellis. Drive a stake or T-post at each end of your row, run a piece of trellis netting or garden mesh between them, and you're done. Jute or twine strung horizontally between posts at 6-inch intervals works just as well and costs almost nothing. Pea tendrils will find it within days. Pea brush, the old-fashioned method, is how peas were grown for centuries. Cut some branchy twigs from a shrub or tree, anything with a lot of small branches works, and poke them into the ground along your pea row. The tendrils grab onto the branches and the plants climb through the brush. It looks a little wild and cottage gardenish, and it works beautifully. This is a great option if you want a more naturalistic, permaculture adjacent look in your garden. If you want something sturdy and reusable for years, a cattle panel arch or a section of cattle panel staked upright is excellent for tall pea varieties. It's strong enough that it won't sag or blow over, and it's easy to harvest from both sides. You can also repurpose the same panel for cucumbers and beans later in the season. It earns its keep. And what about dwarf varieties? Compact varieties like Sugar Ann or Little Marble stay short enough, 18 to 24 inches, that they can support themselves or be given just a short piece of branchy brush. If you're low on trellis space or growing in containers, these are worth choosing specifically for that very reason. Pea seeds are big enough to handle individually, which makes sowing easy and precise. No tiny seeds, no mixing with sand, no squinting to see where they landed. Peas aren't very demanding when it comes to soil. They prefer well-drained soil. They really don't like sitting in waterlogged ground, and they do well in average fertility. In fact, peas are nitrogen fixers, meaning they form a partnership with soil bacteria to pull nitrogen from the air and store it in nodules on their roots. This means they don't need nitrogen-rich fertilizer. A modest amount of compost worked in is plenty. Heavy nitrogen feeding will give you lush, leafy plants that put all their energy into leaves and not very many pods. Sow pea seeds 1 to 1.5 inches deep. In cool, wet spring soil, shallower planting can lead to rot. That extra ½ inch of depth gives the seeds a bit more protection. Space seeds 2 inches apart in the row if you want a dense, productive planting. Some growers go as wide as 4 to 6 inches, which gives better air circulation and slightly easier harvesting. Both work. For rows, space them 18 to 24 inches apart if you have multiple rows. If you're using a trellis, you can plant a double row, one on each side of the trellis, and let both sides climb up the same support. And here's the inoculant question. Inoculant is a powder or liquid containing the specific soil bacteria that peas partner with to fix nitrogen. If your soil has never grown peas or beans before, adding inoculant when you plant can improve germination rates and early plant health. You just dust the seeds with the powder before sowing. Is it required? No. Most garden soils already contain enough of these bacteria that peas will do fine without it. But it's inexpensive, it doesn't hurt anything, and if your soil is new or heavily amended, it's cheap insurance. It's also interesting from a soil biology standpoint. If you're into the science of what's happening underground, looking at pea root nodules later in the season is a fun thing to do with kids. Water thoroughly after planting and keep the soil consistently moist until germination, which happens in 7 to 14 days in cool spring soil. Once seedlings are up, water deeply and less frequently, about once a week if it's not raining. Peas don't want to be consistently wet, just consistently not dry. Let's say you get your peas in the ground in late April and then 2 weeks later there's a frost warning. What do you do now? Mostly nothing. Pea seedlings are quite cold hardy. A light frost, temperatures in the low 30s overnight, will not harm established seedlings. They might look a little limp in the morning, and by afternoon they'll be fine. A hard freeze, temperatures dropping into the mid to upper 20s for several hours, is a different story. That can damage or kill young seedlings, especially if they're very small. If a hard freeze is forecast and your seedlings are less than 3 to 4 inches tall, covering the row with a light frost blanket or row cover overnight is good insurance. Just don't leave the row cover on during the day when it warms up. Here's one thing peas simply do not tolerate: standing water and waterlogged soil. A cold, wet spring where the ground is saturated and drainage is poor can cause pea seeds to rot before they germinate. If you've had a very wet spring and your beds aren't draining well, give the soil an extra few days before sowing and make sure your bed has good drainage built in. Peas are low maintenance once they're established and climbing. Here's what to pay attention to. In the first week or two after seedlings emerge, they might need a little help finding the trellis. Just gently tuck tendrils toward the netting or string and they'll take it from there. Once they've found the support, they're self-sufficient climbers. Peas are more sensitive to water stress during flowering and pod development. If the soil dries out significantly when plants are in bloom, you can lose a lot of pods. Keep watering consistent during this period. An inch of water per week from rain or irrigation combined is the target. Because peas fix their own nitrogen, they don't need nitrogen fertilizer. If anything, too much nitrogen feeds the leaves at the expense of the pods. A light top dressing of compost when plants are about 6 inches tall is more than enough. Beyond, powdery mildew is the most common disease problem for peas in Zone 4, and it almost always appears late in the season when the plants are finishing up and the weather starts to warm. Powdery mildew looks like a white powdery coating on the leaves. By the time it appears, you've usually already gotten most of your harvest, so it's not a crisis, just a sign the season is wrapping up. Good air circulation, which a trellis provides, slows it down. Disease-resistant varieties help too. I most want you to remember this about peas. The harvest window is short, it moves fast, and a pea left on the vine too long becomes a starchy, mealy disappointment. For snap peas, pick when the pods are plump and round. You can feel the peas inside pressing against the pod walls, but the pod is still glossy and tender, not starting to yellow or wrinkle. This is usually around 60 to 65 days from sowing. Check the plants every single day once pods start sizing up. They go from perfect to overripe really fast, especially if temperatures start rising. Pick snow peas when the pods are full size but still completely flat. You should just see the outline of the peas inside, but not any bumps. Once the peas inside start to swell and create bumps in the pod, you've gone a little long and the pods will be less tender. These need even more frequent checking than snap peas. Pick shelling peas when the pods are bright green and well filled. You can feel distinct round peas inside the pod. Shell one and taste it. If the peas are tender and sweet, harvest. If they're starchy and dull, you've waited too long. With shelling peas especially, a few days makes a big difference in flavor. One of the most important things to know about peas is that regular picking extends the harvest. Pea plants are trying to produce mature seeds. That's their biological goal. If you harvest the pods regularly, the plant keeps producing more flowers and more pods in its effort to set seed. If you leave pods on the vine to overmature, the plant senses mission accomplished and slows down or stops flowering. Pick every day or every other day once harvesting starts. Don't leave ripe pods on the vine hoping to get them later. Harvest them and the plant will reward you with more. Here's how to pick without damaging the plant. Don't just yank. Hold the vine with one hand and use your other hand to snap or cut the pod off at the stem. Pea vines are delicate and you can pull a whole section off the trellis if you're not careful. A light touch and two hands makes a difference. In Zone 4, most pea plantings are done by late June or early July. The heat arrives, the plants stop producing, and the vines start to yellow and look tired. That's normal and expected. At this point, you have choices. You can pull the plants and compost them. They're great in the compost pile because those nitrogen-fixing root nodules add nitrogen back to the pile. Or you can cut the vines at soil level and leave the roots in the ground to break down and release that fixed nitrogen into your bed. The second approach is especially useful if you're planting a heavy feeding crop like winter squash or brassicas in the same spot next season. The bed that just held your peas is now freed up in early July. That is prime timing for a succession planting. There's something about that first planting of the season. You're betting on spring. And in Zone 4, spring always comes through, though it just sort of seems like it takes a long time to get here.
Next up in my Zone 4 seed starting series, I'm heading into brassica territory. Broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. These brassicas do need to get started indoors, and I want to show you the timing so you get it right. I'll show you when to start them, how to get strong transplants, and how to use row cover so that you keep those nasty bugs at bay. Before we go, please leave a comment. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it really helps my channel grow. Until next time, start thinking about peas and brassicas. Pretty soon we'll be growing.